It's Energumene opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumene by.
Boyle Sports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boyle Sports, this is betting.
So, hello and welcome back to episode number 41 of the Champ.ie podcast for the season. We continue, Steve, our day-by-day look ahead to the Cheltenham Festival. The videos are going down absolutely fantastic. Great feedback, great participation.
As I keep saying, it all revolves around value, all revolves around the odds. It's all well and good fancying horses and think they've got good chances. What you've got to do is put a price on them. And it certainly stopped me backing a couple of horses that I would have backed at bigger prices this week, and it saved me backing losers. But that's the way you have to operate, I think, to be long-term successful. And today, there was some cracking racing, but it did throw up lots of question marks. Horse that you really fancied in the first race today, Mighty Potter. Yeah.
What did you make of it?
I made of it. It's a question. For me, he ran as if he had a physical issue. Certainly the way he hung quite markedly right-handed on the run-in suggests to me that wasn't the horse that we've been seeing through the season, was it? There was something not quite right with him. And I think the same can be said for Shishkin, although I think Shishkin, it could well be a mental issue because I didn't think he was ever going. He had to be pushed at the start to get going.
Yeah.
But yeah, of what he did last year. And then he tended to jump left-handed. And then I've watched that race back after the race, and I watched it twice again because he made that horrendous blunder 3 out, which I'm not sure. I think if he hadn't have done that, he possibly may have won because he really did pick up, but it was too late in the day. The winner had gone. There was 2 ways of looking at it. It was a very unlucky performance in that mistake, but he was never travelling, and he was way below the form that he showed on that reappearance run. So he's got question marks now about him.
Good time, Johnny. Obviously, good success. We tipped him up yesterday, 10-1. That was another horse that early in the contest, you know, Tony Martin made reference after the race. That he's not a very quick horse. Obviously, he's 3 miles in the Pretemps. This was a plot. We got a nice price about him, and jumping the last, it was never in doubt. He really stayed to the line, and
it was amazing because jumping the last, it wasn't in doubt, but coming into the home straight, it certainly was. And from the start,
we had the binoculars out, Steve. We're trying to search for the horse, but give it a great ride as well. I must mention McKenna's ride. Obviously, he was claiming £5 off. Very decent ride. Blue Lord was disappointing. Shake him up. Harry ran a big race at a big price and place for us. We put him up yesterday at 22-1 in the plate race. Lucia, you were very much against her, and you were proved right. Did you lay Lucia? Did you back in?
I did lay Lucia. I just price related. I couldn't see how she could be that type of price. She travelled well through the race, and I did think before they started to come down the hill, I wasn't too sure how many I had running for me, but always in the back of my mind, the winner of the race, again, we mentioned it yesterday, the winner of the race is form tied in. There was a collateral form line that made it the same horse as Lucia. So I always had a hope while the one that was in front, the eventual winner, won. I was a little bit annoyed. I suppose great benefit of hindsight. Maybe I should have had a few quid on the big price winner, but the percentage call was to be against Lucia.
Lots still to look forward to, Steve. We're moving on to day 4. Right. Race number 1, the Triumph Hurdle. As it stands, Steve, it's currently 15-6 to the Irish, and tomorrow, I think we could kick off what could be a fantastic day again on a Friday. I have it down as a whitewash tomorrow. I'm not too sure where the English winners come from.
I really wouldn't disagree with you, to be honest. I think we spoke about it earlier on in the week. and I didn't get involved, but I did consider. I think it was 20+ winners was around a 5-4 chance, and when I hadn't done a few of the handicaps in detail, so I didn't get involved. But with tomorrow going through the racing, yeah, you have got an extremely strong hand, none more so than in the first race. And it's not the Irish, it's Mr. Mullins, who's got 7 of the starters in the first race. And I think the 3 at the head of the market are all trained by him. And I just found it intriguing that Blood Destiny, who Townend Road, when that won, I was so impressed with that horse. That looked to me like a really, really good horse. The way he hung on to it, he let them come to him as they came into the home straight. Then he kicked again. And yeah, very impressed with that performance. I think form-wise, it's a good performance. But for him then to, I assume, he's picked to get on Lossiemouth. If he's chosen Lossiemouth over Blood Destiny, Lossiemouth must be extremely good. I think it could be as well, where she's a filly, getting the £7 could make that difference. But looking at the race as a betting proposition, though, where's the angle in? They're the front 2 in the market. And I would find it hard to split them. The market finds it hard to split them. And Gala Massot, that finished in front of Lossiemouth, I think Lossiemouth will turn that form around. Yeah, the race didn't pan out for Lossiemouth, did it? But I can't get... if I got involved in the race, I would have to keep 2-1 or bigger. I think I'd have to keep Blood Destiny on side.
Very interesting. Yeah. Fascinating that Willie Mullins has kept these 2 apart, and I think he's always saw Blood Destiny as a big rival to Lossiemouth. What she done at Fairyhouse, I thought, in her first start in Ireland, was pretty decent. She was ridden wide the whole way around. She jumped left, which obviously wouldn't have suited on a right-handed track like Fairyhouse. And it was a quite slow run race, and the turn of foot she shoved from the back of the last. This was on her first start in Ireland. That was impressive. She was obviously all the rage after coming from France. If you watch back a run in France, she made all on, softer ground. I don't think the ground's going to be an issue to her. Gala Massot can be very keen in her races. She's wearing the hood for the first time. I 100% agree with you that Lossiemouth will turn the form with Gala Massot. The fact that Townend has picked her is a good indication. I think that he's keeping the faith. Willie Mullins mentioned after the Dublin Racing Festival, for her to finish where she did, given everything that went wrong in the race, his only concern was, would she have had a hard race? He's kept the 2 of them apart. I'm sticking with Lossiemouth. I think she's very, very good. What she done at Leopardstown at Christmas, I think, is the standout piece of form of any juvenile, either side of the ocean. And if she repeats that effort, I think she's going to be very tough to beat. And you're mentioning 2-1 about Blood Destiny. I think, if you're getting anything over 6-4 on Lossiemouth, I think it's probably more than fair, because I think she's, on what she showed at Leopardstown at Christmas, I think it's the best piece of form on offer. So that run, that last run, it was only the mistake 3 out. She made that mistake 3 out. That knocked her backwards, and she went from just tracking the lead to dropping back, having to come around the field, and he wasn't overly hard on her. I don't think. It wasn't as if he knocked her about. 2:10. Right. 2:10. Oh, nice, easy race to 2:10, isn't it? So we got handicap debutants. We've got some really good handicap form coming into it. A rule of thumb for me, and it's been over the last couple of seasons, and especially so this season, it's just the way trainers are having to operate now. If I look at a race and there's more than 2 handicap debutants in that race, I'm very, very wary of getting involved, because these horses, I'll get annoyed, because it seems to be accepted that that's how trainers campaign horses, is obviously they want to get a handicap mark that they can win off of. So it's only logical that the runs building up to that handicap are not going to show the horse to its best effect. And
at the top level, like these are the top handicaps here. You've got horses such as Hunter's Yarn, a Willie Mullins horse, first handicap. Path de Rue, a Cromwell horse, first handicap. Pembroke, a Skelton horse that hadn't been at all knocked about last time, handicap debut. But you've got some strong handicap form in Filey Bay, who ran in the Betfair Hurdle over here, ran a really good race. Gin Coco, another English trained horse who ran really well in the Greatwood. But I think there'll be something lurking. And they've pretty, I won't say they've shown their hand, but they've shown how good they are in handicaps. Whereas the handicap debutants all of a sudden can take a £20 step forward in the one go. So as a from a punting point of view, they make limited appeal to me, these type of races.
It is a very, very tricky race, obviously, to work out. Probably between this now and the Coral Cup, this probably tops it in terms of the trickiest race of the beat. You will be getting extra places, obviously 6 places with Boyle Sports, the sponsors. Obviously, a big field, 26 runners go to post here. You mentioned the one I'm most keen on in your analysis, Steve, and it's Pat Doyle, the Cromwell horse. And for me, this horse, I love the ground. First of all, this is a point-to-point winner. He's the new course at Cheltenham on this type of ground. You'd have to think would suit. He's a strong travelling type. Won a bumper on deep enough ground at Punchestown last season. It was the final day of the Punchestown Festival. He caught the eye there for me. I thought he'd done a lot wrong in the race, in the bumper. He was ridden quite handy. Derek O'Connor was booked for the ride. Afterwards, they said he was showing quite a bit at home. And he went straight into the notebook for me. So I've been very interested to see how this horse has been campaigned over hurdles. I thought he'd make up into, a graded novice hurdler, if I'm honest about it, Steve, at the start of the season. Right. So I've always been keeping a keen eye on him. I liked what he done at Galway on his hurdling debut. Jumped very well in the race. Reports was from those on track that, he was carrying a bit of condition. So I'm not even sure how ready he even was for debut. He went on then. I quite fancied him for the Royal Bond hurdle, travelled very nicely into the race and went out like an absolute light. He ran behind Vassal Vega at Christmas, wasn't really put into the race, and then won at Navan on his most recent start, jumped very well, came up the hill like a good thing, in novice company, pretty low-key race, and that race obviously has qualified him for this. The British handicapper hasn't been over hard on him either. He's only given him £3. 20-1, I think he's a very lively player to run a big race anyway, and certainly hit the frame. So I'm quite keen on his chances. Keith Donoghue on board. He'll be able to creep away. As I said, the ground isn't an issue. He is a good jumper. Only worry being, his experience for a big handicap. So he'll need a lot to go right at 20-1. I'd be quite keen on his chances. And the other one I really like is more of a seasoned handicap. He ran in the race last season. The horse is called Ballyadam. Hasn't been over-raced. Henry de Bromhead, obviously, his yard are absolutely flying this week. They had a winner today with Envoy Allen for the Shively Park Connections. I think this horse, it only finished 4.5 lengths behind Gaelic Warrior at Leopardstown, over 2 miles at the Dublin Racing Festival off a mark of 142. He was raised £2 by the Irish handicapper, and he comes in here just £4 higher. If you look back at his run last year in the county hurdle, travelled quite well in the race. He's only an 8-year-old. It seems like this Ballyadam has been around quite a while. He obviously finished second to Appreciated in a Supreme hurdle. So he's run well at Cheltenham in the past. He finished 6 lengths behind Stateman in it last year off £4 lower. I'd say he's a stronger horse, and I loved his run at Leopardstown at the Dublin Racing Festival. So I think he can run a big race. Hasn't been weak in the market. He's into 14s from 20-1. Could still be a bit of juice in that price. So 2 against the field, Steve, if you'll allow me here, considering we got considering we got Good Time Johnny up today at a big handicap, we're going to have 2 goals here, and I'm going Pat Doyle at 20s and Ballyadam at 16s. I think both of those have every chance of hitting the frame at big prices.
Well, the solid arguments you made for the pair of them, Barry, and I think Ballyadam again with that yard, they're going so well. And with just the 2 starts this season, I say like this has been the target, but it's been the target probably for 23 out of 28 horses. So, but you can see them running races. So, and are both at double figure prices. That's fair enough.
And I'd say the ground is absolutely spot on for both of them as well. So that's obviously
Right.
a plus. Let's move on to the Albert Bartlett. Now, I really like the one at the top of the market here, Steve. I really like Corbett's Cross.
Right.
If I got 4-1 tomorrow, I'd be interested. He's probably a little short at his current price. The ground he's going to absolutely love. He dotted up off 131 at Fairyhouse on deep ground over the 3 mile distance on his penultimate start. Was sent to Emmett Mullins, has got new silk since, and for him to do what he done at Naas over a trip plenty short for him over the minimum distance, he got up and battle well to beat Found at 50. This horse has to be a massive player. The only problem is this is very competitive.
Yeah, I'd agree with all those comments you've made about him, and I think he arguably just about sets the form standard off of that performance. But the other horse that's at the head of the market is the Gordon Elliott 3 Card Bragg, who steps up in trip. And I think the way, again, I looked at his last 2 races and he looks for the world as if he will improve for the trip. I could see him making quite significant improvement on what he's done to date. So, unfortunately, I wish, they're both at the front of the market, the 2 horses we've mentioned, but I do feel that they've both got very solid chances. You've got one that's setting the standard in Corbett's Cross, and I think 3 Card Break is the one that could take a big step forward. And a couple of the other horses I'd initially left in, Hidden Valley Lake, ground I wasn't sure of, and he wasn't particularly fluent, I didn't think, when I watched 2 of these races on the video. I also left in Monty Star, who looks as if he's got a few pounds to find, and I wasn't too sure where that was going to come from. As far as the home-trained horses, where we're really struggling, the shortest price we've got in is Stay Away Faye, who's about a 25-1 chance, a Nichols horse. So what you mentioned at the start of the programme, the Irish kicking off and maybe going through the card, I don't think we're going to stop the Irish in this race, that's for sure.
There's a possibility that County Carlow could go through the card because Corbett's Cross is the one I like. Emmett Mullins trained, had So Scottish today, of course, ran a good race for a long time, has a chance with Noble Yates in the Gold Cup as well. But just looking at this particular race again, it wouldn't be a day-by-day show, Steve, looking ahead to Cheltenham if we didn't throw a stat into the mix. And the favourites have had a poor record in it in recent seasons. Hasn't been a winning favourite since 2013. So it can be a race that throws up a horse at a big price, as we've seen in recent years. Gordon Elliott has yet to win the race, so I'm sure he'll be itching to get over the line with 3 Card Bragg. But as you said at the start, like these 2 horses do set the standard. One has obviously proven over the trip, has progressed from handicap company and has done everything right this season, Corbett's Cross. And the other one, could be potentially anything, stepping up in trip, and he's not going to mind the ground whatsoever. It's a massive plus for 3 Card Bragg. Is there anything maybe at a bigger price? You mentioned Monty Star.
The horse that there's no way I think this horse will win, but he's a British trained horse, a Kim Bailey trained horse, who I think's a really nice horse going forward, just to keep an eye on, is Chianti Classico. He's a massive price for tomorrow's race, and really the horse would want ideally better ground, but he's the make and shape of a chaser, and he's a typical Kim Bailey horse that he'll be brought. He has been brought along steadily, but next season I think they're going to go novice chasing with him. And he's just one possibly keeping the notebook for when he runs in novice chases, either a sprint. Maybe it will be the end of this season and then into next autumn. But he's a nice horse, I think, going forward.
Absolutely right, Steve. Let's crack on. It is the big one. It is the Cheltenham Gold Cup. And
now,
what do you make of it?
This is a race that I tried to price up, and the big question mark I've got is with A Plus Tard. What do you do with it? You've got the negative, obviously, the strange baffling performance in the Betfield on the reappearance, not been seen since. But the Bromhead horses, as we just mentioned, are running fantastically well. There seems to be quite a bit of confidence behind him. And I think the bottom line is, if he reproduces the level of performance he showed when winning it last year, he will take a great deal of beating. I did notice just before we started chatting, I looked at the prices again. He was 7-1 when I looked at this last night. He's a 9-2 chance now. I think it's all down to the Bromhead horses running so well. So he's the big query for me. On recent form, there seems to be, I've read different articles about Galopin Des Champs as to whether he will stay this trip or how effective he will be at it. He wasn't stopping him at Leopardstown, was he? You know, he hit the line hard, and I don't think there's an issue with the trip. And he did look a horse to me, again, that he is the progressive horse in there. A couple of weeks ago, and I may have mentioned it to you, Brave Man's Game, the Paul Nicholls horse, the King George winner, I thought the ground this week, and I think a few of us did, would be no softer than good to soft. It could be good by the time he raced on the Thursday. Well, it's not. Brave Man's Game on good ground, I thought would have had a live chance. He's got class. He has got some speed about him. But I think the conditions will be against him. So Galopin Des Champs has got an obvious chance. He looks a progressive horse to me. I think the trip will be fine for him. But at Plutar, if he comes back to last season's performance, then he will take a deal of beating. I don't think there's that many chances, if I'm honest with you, when I go through the rest of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of them have got quite a bit to find. And I do feel that recent performance at Leopardstown of Galopin Des Champs is a really good performance. He beat Statler. I don't really see why Statler should turn that form around. You know, Statler is an out-and-out stayer. Won the National Hunt Chase here, I know. But Galopin Des Champs, as I say, looking at that race, I thought, well, how's he going to spin that around? What would need to happen? Possibly Galopin Des Champs wouldn't get the trip, but the impression I got was that he stayed strongly.
So it sounds like you're quite keen on Galopin Des Champs then.
I am, but I'm very aware of A Plus Tard. So whether I'll get involved or not, I'm not too sure at this time, because, as I say, I had difficulty putting a price on A Plus Tard, and if I can't put a price on him, I'm not too sure what price Galopin Des Champs should be. I
get what you're saying about Statler, though, Steve. You know, where's he going to find the 7 lengths from Leopardstown? At 12-1, though, he look back at, obviously a course winner, won the National Hunt Chase last season. He beat Run Wild Fred, who was 159 rated horse every day of the week, but he beat him doing handstands on just his third run over fences. He's really likely raced over fences. The harder they go in this race, I think, the better his chance. He's not going to have an issue on the ground. I would see that as a plus for him. He's won on soft ground. Yeah. In the past, he's run a cracker behind Manila Endo, given £7 at Tramore in a seasonal reappearance. That's a route that Woody Mullins likes to take, of course. Tramore, Alboon Photo, started his journey en route to a Gold Cup there. Where's he going to find the 7 lengths with Galopin Des Champs? They'll go a stronger pace here. It's obviously going to be more of a stamina test, especially with the ground turning up soft. He's a horse that I think has a very live each-way chance. I think he can hit the frame. And at 12-1, I would make him a big player for the Gold Cup, Statler. I have done all season. Galopin Des Champs, for me, I think his price, he's very, very short, in my view, for the Gold Cup. Noble Yates, if he's on the premises turning in, he's going to stay all day, the Grand National winner. If you're on the one in front and he's 3 lengths down coming to the last, you'd have to be terrified. And the other one I wanted to mention was Protectorat, because we've mentioned the Betfair Chase. That was a career best for him. And for me, I would see him the best of the British. I mean, his official rating is 170. He was third in the race last season. How do you rate Protector at?
He's a horse that puzzles me a little bit, because I've always thought that he was a classy 3 miler, a King George horse, if you like, that type of performer, rather than an out and out stayer. And I always got the impression that the Gold Cup, the test that he gives horses, would be a little bit too severe for Protectorat. But he did run he ran a fine race last year. But again, if you look at that, that's why I keep coming back to A Plus Tard. Well, A Plus Tard, how would he, if A Plus Tard comes here tomorrow, the horse he was this time last year, how can Protectorat finish in front of him?
Did they go?
But that's the big query. It's such a mass area with A Plus Tard, and it wouldn't, tomorrow evening after the race tomorrow, it wouldn't surprise me if the horse goes and wins 5-6 lengths, and it wouldn't surprise me if, oh no, he's disappointed again, there's something wrong. With how his horses are running, I think I would favour him coming back to some sort of form. Whether he'll be as good as he was is another matter. But I think he will run a race. But that's why I would be loath to be. You're saying about Gallopin being a short price. I couldn't back him at that price. No, simply because A Plus Tard, if he's right, he would come and beat him. But I did think a few of the others had a lot to prove. I just didn't think that they were good enough. Whether they could take a big step forward. And I accept the case with Statler, and he is an out-and-out stayer. And maybe if the rain is heavier overnight and into tomorrow than it has been, and the ground was very testing, that would certainly come into the equation then. But as the ground rode today, soft and no worse than that, I can't see him turning that form around with Gallopin. But again, price related, one's 7-4, one's 11-12 to 1. So
Statler 12 to 1 each way. And it sounds like you want to back Gallopin the Champ, but you're looking for a bigger price.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't entertain backing it at the price it is. But as I've said, and I'll repeat again, I won't get involved. I won't back horses unless I can price them, because how do I know that I'm getting value? And I can't price this race, and the one horse that I can't price with any confidence whatsoever is A Plus Tard. So I doubt very much whether I will get involved unless I find a different angle into the race, which I've got the best part of 24 hours to try and work out if there's another angle in. Possibly there is somewhere.
Yeah, A Plus Tard, the enigma. Which Plus Tard turns up? Hunter Chase, 410. Now, I bet you have an opinion here.
Well, I did want to mention, I wanted to mention a horse that I've really liked over here this year. And again, a couple of weeks ago, on good ground, if it was good ground tomorrow, even just on the easy side of good, Famous Claremont has been really impressed. Hunter Chaser has got a turn of foot. He's been ridden like that, and both his wins this season, and he's taken another step forward as far as his form is concerned. But the ground, where his advantage over other Hunter Chasers is that he can quicken. 3 1/4 miles on soft ground, that's irrelevant. They've got to get home, and I doubt very much whether he will. Billaway, who won last year, how on earth he won last year, I've no idea. He clouted, I don't know how many fences early on. He was never, ever travelling, and yet he won. He cost me quite dearly last year when he won. I backed the second. And the second horse last year was Winged Leader, trained by the same stable that trained Forcelet. And I watched Forcelet, and I like Forcelet. I think that's sure to run a race. I would be loath. I think Billaway, I'd be surprised if it won again. They put the blinkers on, I see, rather than the cheek pieces, just to try and sweeten the horse up so he runs a bit keener. But I did think that Vorselet looked a really decent horse. As I say, I was disappointed with the ground concerning Famous Claremont because I thought he might come into the race with a live chance. But I think the ground, it's trip plus ground does not equate to him producing his best. Whereas I think Vorselet will be fine.
So Vorselet for Steve in the Hunter's Chase. So very interesting views on that. Bill Away, love to see him win it. Wouldn't have given him a prayer jumping the last season, would you?
Oh, it was incredible performance. I think I watched it about 6 times. I still couldn't believe he got up and won.
Oh dear. No opinion on that race for me. So we'll stick with Steve. He's the knowledgeable man on the Hunter's Chases. So Allegory Devassi versus Impervious. Is it a match, Steve? Do you see anything else getting involved in the 450, the Mare's Chase?
Well, let me run a couple of things through you, Barry, and I want to know what you think. With Allegory Devassi, that win at Thurles last time, he weren't jumping slightly right-handed. He was kicking out quite badly right-handed. He's had 4 runs, 4 Mullins, 2 over hurdles, 2 over fences, both going right-handed. Now, the question is, if she straightens up her jumping, she could step forward massively. But if she jumps like she did last time, has to be a negative. You know, you're on the turn, you come down that hill, you're jumping out right, she's losing ground. But she has got an enormous engine. There's no doubt about that. She stayed on so strongly and basically won unchallenged. So, again, I didn't quite know what to do with her. Then I watched Impervious, who I didn't think was completely fluent with its jumping. She jumped okay, but not completely fluent, and also edged slightly right, no more than that. I don't think it was too bad. And she arguably would be better going left-handed than Allegory Devassi. And initially I thought, well, I've got negatives with those two. Can I find anything else? And then the next one I've got is the Gavin Cromwell, Jeremy's Flame, who came over to Huntingdon and absolutely dotted up, beat the best of our horses, our best mares there. And she won on the bridle. But the pick of her form, I don't think is as strong as what those other two that we've mentioned could achieve. It's just that Allegory Devassi, I'm at a bit of a loss as to what to make of her after watching that jumping performance. The first fence she jumped, he nearly came off, if you remember. She went up in the air, she jumped it, cleared it by about 8 foot, but then kept jumping right, and that's my negative with her, and it would certainly stop me backing her at a short price.
Boyle Sports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boyle Sports, this is betting.
Steve's, yeah, so it looks like a match between the two, very much Allegory Devassi and Impervious. And Impervious on the bare form, she was, of course, giving weight to Journey With Me at Punchestown. That's decent form coming in here. Obviously, she's back in against her own sex. And the form is working out. Journey With Me has subsequently come out and won. So that bodes well. She loved the ground, but Allegory Devassi, I think this mare could just be a step above. I take the point about jumping right. You wouldn't like to see her jumping right at Cheltenham. Obviously, that would be a negative. But in spite of all that, I mean, she's beat Bride's Hill by 19 lengths, who's since come out and bolted up. She's obviously unbeaten over fences. She's massive scope for a mare. And Willie Mullins has won this with Ellie May and Colreevy in the past. Physically, this is more of she's probably a combination of the two. I mean, she's plenty of pace, Allegory Devassi, and she stays. So she ticks lots of boxes for the race. And I think it's probably the best mare that Willie Mullins has actually ever sent to a mare's chase. I think she's top class. I think she jumps very, very well in the main. Certainly she did on debut.
Yeah.
I think she's the classiest in here. I think she's going to take the world to beat. And I'd be quite sweet on her now. She'll be up there with the best bets of the week. And she probably is the best bet of Friday. And I think she's going to take the world to beat. And again, ground is not going to be an issue. Jeremy's Flame, I think she definitely would have to step up to get involved with Allegory Devassi or Impervious. And I'm all over Willie Mullins here in this race. I think Allegory Devassi will give Willie Mullins his third win in the Mayor's Chase. And of course, we've only had 2 renewals to date.
Yeah, I take all those points on board. It's just that jumping. That's where if she was running right-handed, then that would be 6-7-4 would be a big price for me, because I agree, she looks one of those horses that is potentially very, very top class. I agree. But that jumping was so markedly right, and the early fence, the first fence, she took off and cleared it as if it was a Presence wall. She went 8 foot over it, and he nearly came off. But again, we've mentioned this a couple of times. It is Willie Mullins that trains her. They would have worked on it, and it wouldn't be a total surprise to see her jump as straight as a die tomorrow, would it? And if she does, I'm certainly not against you. I can summarise it in one way for you, is that I wouldn't want to back her at 6-4 because I've got that doubt in my mind about her jumping right-handed, but I definitely wouldn't lay her.
I think they could absolutely come for her tomorrow now. I think she could be hammered in the betting.
Right.
And I'll have her as the bet of the day tomorrow, because I think she's better than Impervious. I think she'd beat her. And I would imagine she'll jump better, like you say. So, and even if she doesn't, I still think she's an unbelievable engine. She might still win, exactly. Yeah. So, okay, we're going to move on to what is a race that has been absolutely farmed by Willie Mullins also. In recent seasons. He's won the Martin Pipe on 4 occasions. And he has the favourite in here, Spanish Harlem. Mikey O'Sullivan booked, has to be a massive plus.
Yeah.
Steve, I can't imagine. What do you think?
What do I think? Same comments as what I mentioned about the handicap earlier. We've got handicap debutants again, including Spanish Harlem. So, how much will it improve on its handicap debut? Will it improve £10, £15, £20? We don't know. And the thing with this race, again, it's similar to the earlier handicap, is that you've got those handicap debutants that could all improve significantly and probably will, but you've also got some really solid form. And I think the thing that highlights it, there's a horse running, a Skelton horse called West to the Bridge, that won the other day at Sandown, and it won as it wanted. It absolutely hosed up. It's got a £5 penalty for that win. Now, if this was the target, it wouldn't have run there and it wouldn't have incurred the £5 penalty. But the horse is in form, ran a cracking race, and it's 50-1. So that shows you, with that being 50-1, I think it just highlights the strength that there possibly is with these horses that are all completely unexposed and going into handicaps for the first time, because the West of the Bridge handicap was a strong piece of form for that level. And yet we're looking at horses here that are going to take massive steps forward. And which one will step forward the most? I don't know. Falls into one of my Mission Impossible category races, I'm afraid.
I'm with Spanish Harlem, and I think, once again, I think this one will be backed. This horse has been earmarked for this race for quite some time now. He's had 4 runs to qualify. Right. Look, I love this run in France. It won it out tall on heavy ground, so real deep ground, came from miles off the pace. And just look at the way it's been campaigned this season. Obviously, he's had the 3 starts to date for Willie Mullins. Third behind I Know the Way You're Thinking at Gorham Park, again on deep ground over the 2 mile trip. Then it was stepped up to 2 mile 3 furlong behind 3 Card Bragg, who you obviously are given a big chance to in the Albert Bartlett. It was only a 4-runner race. Loved the way he travelled, liked the way he jumped on that occasion, and wasn't knocked about by Danny Mullins. And obviously last time was this final run to qualify. He gets in off a mark of 135, so just be given £4 by the handicapper. Saturday shot, Willie Mullins has won this with some nice types, but they've carried a lot more weight and they've been given more tax by the British handicapper. The last horse to win this off 135 for Willie Mullins was Sir de Champs. I think he could be nicely treated, and he does have Michael O'Sullivan on board, which is a massive plus. And again, stepping up on trip on deep ground. For me, he ticks a lot of boxes. Iroko is interesting. Obviously, he's come for support. Has Aidan Kelly on board. This horse was a juvenile last season, so he's only a 5-year-old. 138. There could be more to come off his current mark. Mai Tai has the tongue strap on for the first time. I think this horse could be maybe the biggest danger to Spanish Harlem. He could be well treated off 145. He ran obviously at Haydock in a handicap. What we used to be was at the fixed brush, and was well fancied that day. Was quite keen in the race, and obviously came second over two miles, given a sighter at Cheltenham on the new course on his most recent effort. Stepping up in trip again, I'm sure will suit him. And of the British runners, I think he has a chance. Firm Footings, of Gordon Elliott's runners, I think Firm's Footings is probably the most interesting. He's by Walk in the Park. And he was impressive, I thought, at Navan last time. Again, any horse that wins at Navan coming to Cheltenham, I think I love horses that win at Navan. The way he came up the hill, shaped like more of a stair once again. He's 14-1. Shane Fitzgerald rides. I could see him going off shorter than that. But of those towards the front of the market, I just like Spanish Harlem. And I think at 9-2, I think he's a bet at that price. And given Mullins' record, I think he could give him a 5th win in the race.
Well, I will just touch on the horses that you mentioned from the UK. Mai Tai is a nice horse. Having that tongue tie on for the first time could help him. But unfortunately, he is a little bit more exposed than the other horses that we're mentioning. So he could run a fantastic race and still only finish 7th or 8th. Iroko was impressive when it won at Wetherby, and I know he's been kept back for this race. But he did take a hike. He went up £10 for the Wetherby win. And again, he could run really well and be there or thereabouts. And of the British horses, he would be the one I would favour the most, Iroko. But I just think that some of the, you've got too many of those handicap debutants with Elliott, with Mullins, that I just know they're going to take a big step forward. So and I respect your view with Spanish Harlem, because that looks to be one that could, as I say, could show 10-20 pounds improvement on the one run.
Well, you've already landed 2 naps this week already, so we're going to come to you on that in a second. But just a highlight for Steve, who's been fantastic addition to the show all week. Really enjoyed it, Steve, having you on, and it won't be the last time we'll have you on the show. This is Steve's website. Go check it out if you are looking to get in touch with Steve. Obviously, contact details are on screen. Steve's advisory service. You've been doing this a long time, Steve. 33 years a pro bettor, and as we said at the start of the week, you've stayed the course, and you're always open to people getting in touch.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and it's something I'm very proud of, to think that I've got personally, yes, I've got this far, but I still love doing it. I'm not a young man anymore, but I still enjoy the challenge, and every day is a massive challenge, and you have to keep on top of it. And it's not, it's very, without trying to go overboard on it, it's hard work. You do have to put in the hours. You have to put in the form study. You have to watch the videos. Yeah. And so Steve, I'm just happy that I'm still here doing it. Absolutely.
No, you should be very proud of it. And just before we do kind of wrap up and get on to naps and sign off for this particular series, if you had 3 pieces of advice for punters having a bet, or for people potentially looking to go down the route of professional gambling, what would be the 3 pieces of advice? And also, what has been your biggest challenge over the years?
Right. The first piece of advice was the most crucial piece of advice that I ever got right at the beginning. And that was, write down your bets. Make a log of your bets, because what punters can do, it's easy to forget those small bets that we have, and then all of a sudden we back a winner and the losses are forgotten about. log your bets. It's easy to do now as well. You know, the book. If you're betting with a bookmaker, you have a log of them anyway. If you're on the exchange, you've got an account there. Just check and make sure. Keep in control of that. The other thing I think is, I know how much time it takes, and I basically specialise in national hunt and top class flat racing. That's all I deal with, and it takes me. There's not enough hours in the day. Specialise. Whatever it is, whatever you feel that you may have an advantage in, or what you really enjoy, whether it's novice hurdles, novice chasers, handicap hurdles, whatever it is, whatever class of flat racing, but don't try and cover it all. Don't just step in and out of it. Get to a particular type of race, a particular type of horse, and specialise. People do it on the all-weather now, don't they? Because you've got a certain group of horses that are running on the all-weather at certain times of year, and you can keep in touch with them. You can know what everything's doing. And then the most crucial thing, which I keep coming back to, is it's a very subjective thing, price, but price your races. So you have to practice at it. And it's, you know, you won't be right. I'm not right all the time pricing because it is subjective. Objectively, you know, the old one, toss a coin, you know it's 50% heads, 50% tails, even money. You can work that out. That's simple. With horses, you're looking at different things that can happen. So you do have to evaluate their chance, practice putting a percentage chance on the outcome of a race, and then try betting that. And if you do it without real money, if you do it in theory, that will help. But it's a crucial thing. So you have to stay in control of what you're doing. But the most crucial thing is try to recognize value. Don't just think, I really fancy this, I'm going to bet it. Because, hold on, is it a 9 to 4 chance? Should it be a 5 to 4 chance? If it's a 5 to 4 chance and you can bet it at 9 to 4, big bet. If it's a 9 to 4 chance and it's only 5 to 4, don't bet. And that's how you do it. The most challenging thing is keeping the faith in yourself at times. Is that, you have, by nature, you can do everything correct at this game and still lose. You can have a run of horses getting touched off in photographs, falling at the last, jockey error, but you've got to have confidence in what you're doing. And the only way that I keep my confidence is that I am so thorough in what I do that if something beats me, I know why. There's always a turn up and what have you. I'll grant you that. But you do have to put so much work into it so that you're confident in what you're doing. Basically, it's the same as any business. If you're a plumber, if you're a electrician, you don't go and start putting in somebody's electrics if you're just a fly-by-night, because you can make a cock-up. And it's the same with this game. You just can't flit in and out of it. You have to be full-time at it if you want to do it seriously. There's nothing wrong in, if you're putting a few quid to one side and enjoying your racing of a weekend, fine. And if you're in control of that, nothing wrong with it. But if you're looking to do it seriously and earn serious money, then you've got to dedicate your time to it.
Fantastic advice, Steve. And that is, once again, Steve's website and his details for anyone that does want to get in touch. We've really enjoyed having you on for the week, Steve. Fantastic insight. But now it's important. We need your nap for day 4. I was going to say day 5. We might have day 5 next year. But
no, my nap for the day would be, because I was so impressed with him, and I think he improved stepping up in trip, is the Gordon Elliott 3-card break. I think I think one of us is going to win that race, Barry.
We might actually have a winning favourite of the Albert Bartlett this season, because I'd imagine one or the other is going to go off favoured. And I'm with Corbus Cross in that. Steve, absolute pleasure having you on, and I wish you the best for day 4 of the Cheltenham Festival. In terms of a nap,
been my pleasure, Barry. Been my pleasure.
Absolutely. In terms of a nap for myself, I'm going to go Spanish Harlem in the Martin Pipe. So that's been episode number 41 of the season, Steve. Look forward to having you on again. And everyone, make sure for a chance to win that €20 free bet with Boyle Sports. To get your name into the draw, make sure and put in your your 7 selections for each of the 7 races tomorrow at Cheltenham in the comments. Look forward to going through them. And Steve, that has been episode number 41.
Boyle Sports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boyle Sports, this is betting.
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special year, and it's a hands full of grace. And it's Energumene opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumene by